In this video, I want to show you a little bit more about how to find a good image for vector cutting. Now, when you're going to vector cut, about 99% of the time in my class, vector cutting happens in the very, very thin veneers of wood. That's a 1/16 of an inch or thinner. So we need to find images that will work best for cutting out. It's very different from raster cutting or engraving. So here are some images, some ideas. I typed into Google sports equipment black and white. Black and white images are always best because then we don't have to alter the color. There's less gradient. But here are some examples of what will work and what won't. Here's a soccer ball. This one won't work very well because there's a light area and a dark area. There's a lot of shading. Whereas next to it, this bison, it's either black or it's white. It would vector cut very, very well. Some other examples here. These would not vector cut out very well at all because it's mesh. It's so detailed. We need something very bold, black or white. So this ball would work better, and some images work better than others. Let me go to something a little bit different. Our school mascot is a caveman, so I just typed in caveman black and white. Some of these would work much better than others. As we scroll down a little bit, some of them have more detail. Like, for example, this image would not vector cut well at all. The computer wouldn't hardly know what to do with it. There's so many lines there. A vector is a mathematically defined line, and the more lines there are next to each other with all this gradient, the more confusing it is. It doesn't know what to cut out. Whereas an image like this, that's very simply drawn, it's either black or it's white, would be much easier to vector cut. So when you're looking for images, try to find things that are very defined, bold, less detail. We go back to the original Celtic knot, and this is one that I did earlier. Something like this is very simple. It's all geometric. It's either there or it isn't. There's no light and dark. There's no gray in there. So it's very simple to vector cut. So if we want to vector cut something like this, I simply want to click on it, and I want to make it as big as possible. The reason we do that is the more bits of information that I can copy, the more detailed the engraving is going to be. And so all you got to do again, right-click, save image as, and then we're going to just save it on the desktop. And Celtic knot, that's fine. I don't mind if that's the name of it. I would recommend probably putting your name just so it's easier to find, and we save it. Then we can just shrink this back down. So it ends up on my desktop right there, and I want to pull it into paint.net. We just click and drag it on, and there you go, and it opens up. So there's very little altering we have to do because it's so easy to see. But my point with making it bigger when you downloaded it is the closer I get, the more blurry the lines get because you're making those bits of information bigger to the eye. And so you're going to get more blur, especially on a curve. That's where it especially happens. That's why when you download it or save it onto my computer, you really want it to be as big as possible so that there's less alteration, less things that we need to change to make it look sharp. So there's really only two things I need to do. Make it black and white. Even though it looks black and white, I want to make sure the computer defines it as black and white. And I want to get rid of all the white background. So we just go here to the magic wand, click and hold Shift, though all of these are touching each other, so it'll probably get them all at once, and then just delete. And now that's my image. Now, to cut this out, we'll have to outline it, and that's done in our other software in CorelDRAW on the other computer. So this is done for now. We have to alter it a little bit more in the next software. So we just save it, OK, and we can click out of this, and now this is my new altered image. So now we get back into our CorelDRAW, and we enlarge that. And now we just go to here, and it depends on what you want. Now, if you're doing this for a longboard, we would simply put 24, which is as big as it gets, or whatever size you're doing, by 10 inches wide, and that's your long piece. If you're doing another image, it doesn't matter. You'll size it accordingly. I'm just doing this since longboards are more or less what we do vectors with. And then we file, import, and then we find that image. And you'd be finding this on a thumb drive or something else. And then you can make it bigger. Now, first of all, if you're doing a longboard, you need to be careful because the longboards aren't straight. They start that way, but you're going to cut out a shape, and you might lose some of the edge as you cut out the actual shape of your longboard. So make sure you're not making it super huge where you're actually going to lose the edges the further you go. So make sure you size it correctly and in the right place according to where you want it, whether it's in the center or on the end of your board or wherever. But here's what we have to do. We need to outline this. So now it's highlighted. I've clicked on it. And you're going to go to bitmaps, and that's found up here. And again, I know these are hard to see, but bitmaps is right there. And you're just going to do a quick trace. Okay, so it's traced it. It doesn't look different. Grab and pull it off, so now there's two images. This is my original. This is the new one. So while this is opened up, I have this Object Properties menu that opens up on the side. It tells me everything I need to know about this. First of all, I need to get rid of all of this fill, all this black. I don't want it to be filled. I need lines, not filled areas. Here's fill. You just hit no fill. Now, of course, it disappeared. That's no good. I need lines. So we need the outline of that image. And what we need, it has to be a hairline. If it's any of these others, the computer will not see it, and it will not engrave anything. So make it a hairline, and there's my image right there. Now, when you do it that way, it always puts a border around it, and we need to delete that. Now, before I delete it, I can show you another way to do this as well. Go back to our image, go back to bitmaps, and you could also do outline trace. When you do that, I find that line art seems to work best. It gives you this menu. This is what it will look like when it's done, so forth. I don't really mess with any of these things. You can change detail. You can change smoothing. That will make things the curving a little bit better. By all means, play with that until you're happy with the image, and then hit OK. And again, you just click and drag that off. And you get the same menu over here on the right, and we get rid of the fill, and you change that to hairline. And now there's no border. But I find that sometimes the outline trace gives you additional lines that you don't want. Not always, but it does every now and then. So if I zoom way in, you can see there's some lines here that don't belong. Whereas on this one, there may be one or two sometimes. This one actually looks pretty good that we need to take care of. So they both work. Both systems work. One will give you a border. One may give you a few extra lines. Those extra lines appear because this image was blurry. You can see the blur on the edges there. So the better image we can get, the fewer mistakes that we'll have. So in this case, I think it'd be easier to adjust this one than this one. So first thing, this image is grouped. You click on one part and the whole thing clicks. I mean, I can move the whole image at once. So what we need to do with this is ungroup it. So now it's clicked. You right-click, ungroup. Now it sees it as a whole bunch of different lines. Okay? Now what I need to do is get to something that allows me to click on these individual lines. So I'm going to go over here and press on the Shape tool. All right? And as I click it, all these different lines light up. And you click on it and press Delete. Click, delete, click, delete. Sometimes there's more than one line there, and you'll have to delete a few times. That happens all the time. But don't worry, just delete the ones that you don't want. And once I'm done, if that's all clean and you're happy with how it looks, then I would group it back. Go back to your pick tool and highlight everything. You can't just click one thing. It'll just grab that one thing. Right-click, group. And now you're back to, I can move the whole image at once. And that one's done, ready for vector cutting. If you end up with an image that has lines and there's nothing you can do about it, you have to fix it, that's okay. Here's how you do it. We go through the similar process. Click on it, right-click, ungroup. All right, so now we have a whole bunch of lines there. Now I go back to my Shape tool, and you can see there's a lot of lines. Simply zoom in. I'm using the mouse to zoom in. And now I can just click. I don't like that line. Delete it. Delete that, and continue deleting these little lines that aren't correct until you're happy. And like I said, sometimes they double up. There's line upon line upon line upon line, and you just need to get rid of any one you don't like. Now, in this case, let me delete as much as I can. If you have a line that isn't straight, or that you want to change, this one's a little bit more curved, I can grab and extend that line out a little to make that a sharper corner. So if it, here's another one, has a shape that you don't like, feel free to grab and just pull. So this one actually had 2 lines, so I'm just going to delete some of those extra lines, grab and pull that out a little bit. It helps if you zoom in a bit. There's that, and I can grab and pull and those connect, and then I can kind of pull that out a little bit. Now, it depends on how detailed you want to be. You don't have to do this, but if you want it to look a little bit sharper, take the time to make it look good, and then please remember to save your work. Just up here, File, Save As, and put it under your name so that you know it's there, and if you have to come back to it, it's easy to come back to. You don't have to redo all your work. So those are some of the little details that will help your image turn out. Again, click and delete, and continue until you're happy. Once you're happy with the image, we do the same thing. Go back to your pick tool, and it did pick everything, but I just want to make sure I've got it all. Right-click, and then right-click. You actually have to be on one of your lines, and there's group right there. And now you've got your image. Now, once you have your image, you can delete your original, and this one I know it's got some issues that I don't want. I haven't fixed it all, so I'm just going to delete that. This is my good image. Everything is a hairline. It has no fill. There's no background. It is ready to be cut out. So what you do now, once you get it in the right place and you are pleased, you're happy with how it looks and where it is, then we're going to go to the setup tool for vector cutting, and that will be on the other computer where the laser engraver is.